Okay, let's get into this. We've all been there, right? That summer heat wave hits, and suddenly your home feels less like a sanctuary and more like a sauna, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Where just sitting on the sofa feels like a workout. It's that feeling figuring out why our homes turn into these heat traps that we really dug into for the Urban Herald recently.
exactly. So in this analysis, we're diving straight into the core of that Urban Herald piece. Think of it as your inside track, getting you the key practical tips on cooling your home this summer.
Yeah, we're talking understanding the why and then hitting the what you can actually do, covering everything from, zero cost fixes to smart tech upgrades.
And the Urban Herald piece really laid the groundwork by starting with the basics, didn't it? Like, why do our homes get so hot in the first place?
That's the foundation. You've got to understand the enemy, so to speak,
Yeah.
and it really just boils down to physics, essentially heat transfer.
Heat moving from hot to cold.
Always.
Yeah.
In summer, that means the hot outside air is constantly trying to push its way into your cooler home.
Yeah.
It's relentless.
And the Urban Herald analysis pointed to the main ways this happens, the biggest one being
Sunlight. Simple as that. Direct sun streaming through windows. It's like your car in summer, the glass lets the light energy in, it heats up surfaces inside.
and then that heat gets trapped, the greenhouse effect.
Precisely. It can't easily escape back out through the glass. The article really flagged south and west-facing windows as major culprits during peak sun hours. Makes a huge difference.
Okay, so sun pouring in. What's next on the list?
Hot air basically sneaking in, infiltration. The piece made a big point about how much heat just leaks in from outside through walls, roofs, but especially gaps around windows, doors, little cracks.
Even tiny ones add up?
Yeah, significantly. It's like
Sure.
a house is just constantly breathing in that hot air you're trying so hard to keep out.
Okay, so infiltration. And the third source the article highlighted was maybe less obvious, the heat we generate ourselves.
Right. Inside the house, it's all the stuff we run.
Like ovens, dryers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Old incandescent bulbs, TVs, computers, even chargers left plugged in. They all kick out heat. And if your house is sealed up to keep hot air out, that internal heat has nowhere to go.
So it just adds to the problem. The Urban Herald piece stressed that you actually have quite a bit of control over this internal heat load.
Definitely. So, okay, sun, leaks, and our own appliances.
Yeah.
Based on these, the article outlined some core principles for fighting back.
First up was insulation, wasn't it?
Yes, and the key point was, it works both ways. We think of insulation keeping heat in during winter, but it's just as crucial for keeping heat out in summer. It's your barrier.
Like a year-round shield for your house. Makes sense.
And the second principle is about moving air. Stagnant air just feels awful, right?
Oh, yeah, sticky.
Because it stops your sweat from evaporating properly, which is how your body cools itself naturally. The article explained that moving air, even if it's the same temperature, helps that evaporation, so you feel cooler.
Which is key for comfort without just cranking the AC down.
Exactly. It's about smart comfort, not just brute force cooling. Understanding these basics, heat sources, insulation, air movement, that's step one for efficient cooling, according to the analysis.
Right. So knowing how the heat gets in, let's talk defense. The Urban Herald piece started with the easy wins, the passive stuff.
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit, often free or very low cost. And number one, tackling that biggest heat source, blocking the sun before it cooks your house.
So curtains and blinds seems almost too simple.
But incredibly effective. The article really hammered this home. Keep them closed, especially on those south and west windows during the hottest times. Thermal or blackout curtains are best, apparently.
What about just heavy, light-colored ones?
Even those make a difference, yeah. Anything to stop the sunlight hitting the inside surfaces.
And the article mentioned window film, too,
Yeah,
as a sort of DIY upgrade.
right. Reflective window film, you apply it directly to the glass. The piece noted it can block a huge chunk of solar heat and glare, potentially reducing heat gain significantly. It's a step up from just curtains.
Okay, here's one that always gets me. The advice to keep windows closed when it's boiling outside. My instinct is to throw everything open.
I know, it feels wrong, doesn't it? But the analysis was clear. If the air outside is hotter than the air inside, opening windows is literally just letting heat pour in. You've got to keep things sealed tight during peak heat.
So ventilation is only for when it's actually cooler outside.
Exactly, like early morning or late evening or overnight. That's when you use cross ventilation.
How does that work again?
You open windows on opposite sides of your home, ideally maybe ground floor and upstairs if you have that. It creates a natural draft, pulling the cooler air through and pushing the warmer, stale air out. It basically flushes the heat out.
And fans play a role here too.
Big time. Ceiling fans, pedestal fans, whatever you've got.
Yeah.
But, and this was a crucial point in the article, fans cool people, not rooms.
By moving air over your skin, right,
Right.
helping evaporation.
Precisely. So the takeaway was, turn them off when you leave the room. No point cooling an empty space, that's just wasted electricity.
Got it. Cool the person, not the room. And the classic ice trick.
Ah, yes, the DIY air conditioner. The piece mentioned putting a bowl of ice or maybe frozen water bottles right in front of a fan. The air blows over the ice, cools down a bit from the melting.
And gives you a nice cool breeze. Low tech, but it works for a bit of relief.
Definitely. The analysis also pointed out using things you already have, like extractor fans.
In the kitchen and bathroom.
Yeah. Run them after you shower or cook. They pull out all that hot, steamy air right away before it makes the rest of the house feel damp and even hotter. It tackles that internal heat source directly.
Simple. And another easy passive tip was about managing rooms.
Just closing doors to rooms you're not using during the day stops them from baking in the sun and becoming little radiators that heat up the rest of the house. You concentrate the cool air where you actually are.
Okay, so block sun, manage airflow, ventilate smartly. Then the Urban Herald piece looked at reducing the heat we actually make inside.
Yeah, being smarter about appliances. Ovens and clothes dryers were flagged as huge heat culprits.
So the advice was,
Cook outside if you can, use the microwave more, maybe prep meals when it's cooler in the evening, delay running the dryer until it cools down outside. Basically, don't add fire to the fire, you know.
makes total sense. And lighting came up too.
Simple switch. LEDs over old incandescent bulbs. Incandescents waste a ton of energy as heat. LEDs run much cooler and save you money on electricity. Win-win.
What about electronics? All the chargers and TVs?
Sneaky heat sources. Even on standby, they generate a little bit of heat. The article suggested unplugging things like chargers, TVs, computers when you're not actively using them. It all adds up.
Every little bit helps. And one more for personal comfort.
Fabrics. Switching to breathable stuff like cotton or bamboo for your bedding, even sofa covers. They feel cooler against your skin because they don't trap heat and moisture like synthetics often do.
Right, so that covers a whole raft of passive, often low-cost ideas from the analysis. Then it moved into strategies that need a bit more investment, but pay off long-term.
Exactly. The energy-efficient upgrades. Like going back to blocking sun, but with more permanent solutions.
Such as?
Exterior awnings or pergolas. They stop the sun hitting the window in the first place, which is even more effective than inside blinds.
And upgrading the windows themselves.
Double glazing was a big one in the article. That gap between the panes acts as insulation, slowing down heat transfer, both keeping heat out in summer and during winter. A major upgrade.
Insulation generally got another mention here, right? More detail.
Yeah, really emphasizing attic and wall insulation. Your roof gets incredibly hot. Good attic insulation is vital to stop that heat radiating down. Same for walls stopping heat conducting through.
Yeah.
The piece framed these as fundamental for comfort and saving energy year-round.
And sealing those leaks we talked about earlier becomes even more important then.
Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
If you've invested in good insulation, you don't want hot air just bypassing it through gaps. The analysis stressed being meticulous with weather stripping around doors and windows, sealing cracks, even around pipes and outlets. Stop the drafts.
And a greener, more aesthetic, long-term solution.
Landscaping. Planting trees, especially deciduous ones, or vines on the south and west sides. They provide shade in summer when they have leaves, blocking sun on your walls and windows. Then they lose their leaves in winter, letting the sun help warm things up.
Smart, working with nature. Okay, let's switch gears to tech. The Urban Herald piece got into smart home cooling.
This is where you automate things for convenience and efficiency.
Smart thermostats, like Nest and Honeywell.
Exactly. The article highlighted how they learn your patterns, adjust automatically, and let you control things remotely. Saves energy, saves money. They mention potential savings of around £100 a year. They balance comfort and cost.
Being able to tweak the AC before you even get home is handy.
It really is. And same for things like Wi-Fi-enabled fans, also mentioned in the piece. Turn them on remotely, adjust speeds easily via an app, effortless control.
And smart blinds. They sound cool.
They are. Getting more common. The article pointed out they can automate closing based on sunlight or temperature, taking that task off your plate and stopping heat gain proactively.
The analysis even touched on more complex systems.
Yeah, integrated setups using sensors, temperature, humidity, whether someone's actually in the room to really fine-tune the cooling everywhere. And also things like smart AC controllers, which can make your existing dumb AC unit smart.
Nice. And importantly, the Urban Herald analysis made sure to cover eco-friendly options too.
Definitely. Thinking sustainably. Things like solar-powered fans, no plug needed, just sunshine.
And those evaporative coolers.
Right, great for dry climates. They use water evaporation to cool the air, using way less energy than traditional AC, and no harmful refrigerants. A much greener option if your climate suits it.
Green roof's got a nod, too.
Yes, for insulation, but also the cooling effect of plants releasing water vapor evapotranspiration. Plus, they look great and help biodiversity.
And of course, all those passive strategies we discussed are inherently green.
Absolutely. Cross ventilation, shading, using building materials wisely. That's all working with the environment, using minimal energy. The article also briefly mentioned things like reflective roofing paint and even geothermal cooling for those looking at bigger projects.
Okay, shifting focus slightly. The analysis also acknowledged that different rooms need different tactics, right?
For sure. Tailoring the approach. Bedrooms were a focus, obviously, for sleep comfort.
So cotton sheets, breathable fabric.
Definitely. And that hack the article mentioned, popping your pillowcase or even sheets in the freezer for a few minutes before bed. Sounds weird, but can really help you cool down enough to drift off on those really hot nights.
Huh, we might try that. And fan placement in the bedroom.
Key. Maybe near an open window overnight to pull in cooler air, or just a pedestal fan aimed at the bed for that direct evaporative cooling effect while you sleep.
What about the main heat zones, like kitchens and living areas?
That's where you really need to be mindful of internal heat. The article reiterated avoiding the oven, maybe opting for salads or grilling outside, and keeping doors closed during the day to contain the cool air where you spend most time, preventing heat migration from hotter spots.
And using those extractor fans religiously after cooking or showering?
Vital. Get that hot, moist air out immediately before it spreads. Makes a huge difference to overall humidity and temperature.
Right. Now, towards the end, the Urban Herald analysis did some valuable myth busting. Always useful.
So useful, because some common wisdom is just
Oh.
wrong and can make things worse.
Yeah.
Like the idea of always opening windows during the day.
But let the breeze in instinct.
Yeah, but the myth is it always cools things down. The fact that the article stated clearly, only open windows if it's actually cooler outside than inside. Otherwise, you're just importing heat. Ventilate smart morning, evening, overnight.
And the fan myth.
That they cool the room. Nope. The article stressed again, fans cool people.
Yeah.
Leaving one on in an empty room achieves nothing except wasting electricity.
Insulation only being for winter.
Big myth. The analysis was explicit. Good insulation is crucial for summer too, keeping unwanted heat out. It works year-round.
And finally, myths around using air conditioning.
Like cranking it down to 18 degrees Celsius thinking it cools faster or better. The article argued that's super inefficient, wastes energy, and can cause issues like condensation.
Better to aim for a more moderate temperature.
Exactly. Around 24-26 degrees Celsius, or 75-78 Fahrenheit, is usually comfortable and much more efficient. The piece noted every degree lower can hike energy use by up to 10%.
Wow. And AC maintenance.
Crucial. Clean or change those filters regularly, like every month or two during heavy use, and get it serviced annually. A well-maintained AC works better and uses less energy. A dirty filter really kills efficiency.
Good practical advice. And the article wrapped up with some quick heat wave hacks, didn't it?
Yeah, those immediate relief things. Freezing bedding, the ice bowl in front of the fan, keeping blinds shut, reinforcing the key passive stuff.
Damp towels near a fan.
Yeah, uses evaporation to cool the air slightly. And a surprisingly effective one they mentioned, soaking your feet in cold water cools you down quite quickly.
And sticking with cotton clothes and sheets.
Makes a real difference to how comfortable you feel. It was a really comprehensive look, wasn't it? From instant fixes to big picture changes.
Definitely. So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway from our deep dive into the Urban Herald's analysis?
I think it's that keeping cool in summer is genuinely achievable for pretty much everyone. It's about being smart, using a mix of these strategies, the passive ones, maybe some efficient upgrades, using tech wisely, all based on understanding how heat actually works in your home.
It really empowers you, doesn't it, to manage your own comfort, save energy, save money, and not just feel overwhelmed by the heat. These strategies offer options for every situation.
Absolutely. You can pick and choose what works for your home, your budget, your climate. Start small, build up.
And maybe the most interesting final thought, drawing from the core principles in the piece, it's how understanding something fundamental like heat transfer physics and applying it to your own home isn't just about comfort. It's about regaining a sense of control over your environment against these big natural forces like heat waves. It kind of makes you wonder, what other big challenges could we tackle more effectively just by understanding and applying the basic principles behind them?